Hey everybody, this is Russ Bucher, the creator of ControlMyJoystick. We're just going to take a quick look at ControlMyJoystick. It's kind of an introductory video, and let's see what we can do with it. So first of all, when you start up ControlMyJoystick, you'll notice the most recent version is 5.3, and that was released in early January 2020. And we did some bug fixes and updated the documentation and the tutorials online. And the first thing you'll see here in ControlMyJoystick is the concept of a profile. And a profile holds the the information you need for triggers to activate a macro, which in turn runs script commands, which send information out to your game. You can see here we have different sample macros here, or I should say sample profiles here, and all these different tutorials. But I'd just like to show you how to create a very basic profile. We're going to get it to output to Notepad. So this is a good way to learn ControlMyJoystick. First of all, let's go here and right-click, or you can go up here to Profile and go New. And I'm just going to call it Profile Number 1. And then we'll create a new macro. Now you can have one or more macros in a profile. And we'll call this one Test A. And let's say we want this macro to fire whenever we say the word test. Now it's going to make sure my voice is set up here. I'll enable it. Okay, so now it should be reading my voice. Perfect. Okay, so let's go over here. And for this macro, whenever we say the word test, what you see listed here, it should recognize it. So test. Okay, and you'll see it jump. Now I'm going to be doing lots of talking here, so I may inadvertently fire other macros. You can actually set up a prefix in your voice configuration, so you don't have kind of false recognitions. So we'll call it computer. Okay, let's try that again. So you should be having a lot less false positives now, and I'll just go computer test. Okay. So here, when I say the word test, I want this script to run. So a very easy way to do this is to test it is just put in a pause for 500 milliseconds. Then go over to the log. I'm going to clear the log. And then I'm going to run it. So a couple different ways to run this. You could just press the run button. And I will enable the script here. Okay, so you can see that when I press the run button, it said it's running macro test A. It beginning, pause for 500 milliseconds, and it ends. Okay, so let's see if I can get it to run with my voice. Computer test. And there it ran. And you even saw it listed here as a currently running macro. It just kind of blinked on there. So we'll try it again. Computer test. If I go back here to the input, I'll just select something else. Computer test. Okay. So let's make it output to Notepad. And this is a good way to kind of get to know the system here and see how it's working. So there I have Notepad. And take note of the title. It's untitled-notepad. But as soon as you make a change to Notepad, it puts an asterisk here, which is a bit of a pain. So I'm just going to leave that because it's going to be important, because whenever we want output to go to a game, you have to tell it what game or what program you want that output to go to. And to do that, we use profile targets. So if I double click down here, I could select Notepad from the list. And you'll notice it has an asterisk at the front. That's very important here. I think it's a recent version of Notepad in a Windows 10 update. I don't think it used to have an asterisk there. if you made changes in Notepad to the content of Notepad. Because if you set it up initially as a target, as just untitled-notepad with no asterisk, then you make a change to Notepad where it now has an asterisk, it's not going to use it as a proper target anymore, and I'll show you what that's about. So anyways, we'll just set it here as untitled Notepad. Okay. And you can see we have it turned on. It's 20 milliseconds, which means that whenever I run a macro, it's going to kind of bring up Notepad. It's going to wait 20 milliseconds, bring up Notepad, and then output whatever we want to Notepad. You could change this delay here. Each program can be a little bit different. Notepad's pretty lightweight, so you could switch to it very easily. But some programs are very large and kind of take a lot of memory and CPU, and so it might take a full second or so for the program to become active. And so you would increase the activation time for those. Okay, so let's tell it to send some text. So I'll go to keyboard driver. Now these are script commands that you see back here. And I just want to say this, hello, with the space. Okay, so now our script is pause half a second and send the word hello to Notepad. I'm just going to use the run button here. And you can see it brings up Notepad from the background and types in hello. Now that hello is being sent through the TetherScript virtual keyboard driver. And these three drivers installed when you install a ControlMyJoystick. Okay, so let's try that again. I'm just going to press run. Says it again, except you see there's no H there this time. Well, so what we do here is just give it a little bit more time. Let's give it, say, 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second before it starts sending letters to Notepad. So this will make it a bit more consistent. Like I say, the bigger and more CPU and memory intensive the program is, the longer time you'll have to give it to it. So a big game, if you're swapping over to it like this with targeting, give it at least 100 milliseconds. Okay, now this time let's use voice. Computer, test. Computer, test. Computer, test. So targeting allows you to basically specify a program you want your output to go to. And that could be mouse output, keyboard, or joystick output. Now you can see the different inputs we have. You can use these inputs to trigger your macro. So I can have DXWare. And this is like a 3D mouse from 3D Connection. So you can have maybe a button on that, or a press along an axis with the controller puck to start your script, or to trigger it. And under HID here, this is joystick. So you can add a joystick and have a button there, or a movement along an axis to start trigger the script. Now if we go to the Output tab, these are the different ways that ControlMyJoystick will communicate with your game. And here it's still kind of going false positive recognition here on voice. Something about my voice keeps on setting it to reset drivers. But what I can do right now is I can go here. I'm just going to set a key press on one of my controllers. And now if I press this, it's going to mute the voice, and so now it should no longer activate anything. let's go back over here to the Output tab. So we have a separate virtual joystick driver, and we can output 6 different axes, and the slider, dial, wheel, hat buttons, and button buttons. So here, what you could do is you can actually take the input from, say, a 3D connection device and assign it to this axis of our virtual joystick driver. And you can maybe take another axis from a joystick and assign it to this axis of the virtual joystick driver. And same with buttons. So you could have maybe 3 or 4 devices all contributing to input that ControlMyJoystick will use as output in this virtual joystick driver. And we'll have another video showing how to set this up later. We also have mouse output. So you can set up a script which positions the mouse cursor at a certain position on your screen and then performs an action like does a right or left click or whatever. And you could test it here. You could just say, move the mouse cursor to these coordinates. That's like middle of the screen. See how it jumped? So it sent a command to the TetherScript virtual mouse driver to move the mouse over here. And there's actually a demo showing in detail how this works here, this tutorial. You can bring up Microsoft Paint, and this script will draw an X in Microsoft Paint by using the mouse. Okay, and we also have the keyboard. And this is very similar to what we're doing with this script. So I can go keystroke editor, have hello world here. I could say test. You can see it's typing a little slower. It's using this here instead, these timings, so test. But it's also using this, this app targeting. It's looking for untitled Notepad with the asterisk, which is right here. And it's waiting 100 milliseconds and it sends it over. You could speed this up. You could say only wait 50 seconds or 50 milliseconds per keystroke. And you can see it's faster. Okay. So that is really the basics of ControlMyJoystick. You create a profile. You accept input to trigger a macro, and the macro in turn runs a script. Okay, that's it for now. Have fun.